Before we dive in, viewer discretion is advised. This content is for entertainment. It was supposed to be just another night in late-night television. A celebrity guest, a charming host, a theater full of laughter and applause. But what began as a routine promotional stop turned into one of the most explosive clashes ever broadcast on network TV. The Ed Sullivan Theater buzzed with excitement. Audience members filed in, clutching their tickets like golden passes to a comedy kingdom. The band rehearsed a few last notes. Producers whispered into headsets, cameras tilted into place, and stagehands rushed to make sure everything looked perfect. The lights, the sound, the crowd's anticipation all pointed to another easy win for Stephen Colbert. And then came the guest. Denzel Washington, Academy Award winner, director, Hollywood royalty, a man whose very presence carried the weight of authority. He walked in with that signature calm grace, flashing a warm smile, shaking hands as the audience roared in approval. For many, this was why they came, to see one of the greatest actors alive sit across from one of television's sharpest wits. On the surface, it was a perfect pairing. Colbert, the liberal-leaning satirist known for turning interviews into clever jousts. Denzel, the dignified veteran respected for his craft, faith, and moral compass. Two men, two value systems, a collision waiting to happen. But in that moment, no one saw it coming. The crowd expected an hour of banter, jokes, and light-hearted promotion for Denzel's latest film. They didn't realize they were about to witness the unraveling of an interview, the breakdown of a host and a guest who would ultimately rise from his chair and walk out with his dignity intact. The lights dimmed, the familiar theme played, and Colbert stepped onto his stage. His monologue was sharp, polished, filled with political barbs that drew easy laughter. The audience clapped and cheered at every punchline, never guessing that the real fireworks were still to come. This was supposed to be entertainment. Instead, it became a reckoning. What followed would leave Colbert visibly shaken, the audience stunned into silence, and the internet ablaze. The moment that shattered the unspoken rules of late-night television was only minutes away, and you, watching this now, will have to decide for yourself. Was Colbert right to press, or did Denzel show us what real integrity looks like? Before we get to the clash, make sure you hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Tell us whose side you're on, because after you see what happened, you'll understand why this night is still being talked about as one of the most unforgettable moments in television history. Denzel Washington wasn't there to spar. He wasn't there to debate. He came for one reason: to promote a film. His latest directorial project was already earning critical buzz, a drama about redemption, forgiveness, and second chances, a story close to his heart. The film carried echoes of Denzel's own life philosophy, built on faith, discipline, and resilience. For him, the Colbert appearance was just another stop on a demanding promotional tour. Smile, answer a few questions, drop the release date, and move on. But behind the scenes, a different script was taking shape. Sources later revealed that Colbert's writing team had spent the afternoon crafting pointed, even confrontational questions. These weren't about cinematography or performance. They were gotcha questions designed to corner Denzel about his Christian faith and conservative-leaning views. Colbert, energized by his audience's political sensibilities, reportedly told his producers, "Let's challenge him. Let's see if we can get something viral." By the time Denzel's car pulled up outside the theater, the trap was already set. At first, everything seemed normal. The crowd's thunderous applause when he walked on stage, the warm handshake between actor and host, the easy laughter when Colbert teased Denzel about his legendary work ethic. For a few minutes, the exchange felt safe, even friendly. But then came the shift. "So, Denzel," Colbert began, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "This new film of yours deals with forgiveness and redemption. Given your faith background, I'm curious, how much of your personal beliefs influence this story?" It was a fair enough question. Denzel leaned forward, thoughtful, his voice calm and deliberate. Faith, in whatever form it takes, gives us a framework for forgiveness. The character I'm playing made mistakes, serious ones, but he's trying to find his way back. That, to me, is universal. The audience murmured their approval. It was the kind of grounded, measured response they had come to expect. But Colbert wasn't satisfied. The host leaned in closer, eyes sharper now. Right, but don't you think there's a certain irony when Hollywood actors, people who make a living in a world of fantasy, start lecturing audiences about moral values? The mood shifted. Denzel's smile faltered for just a second. His publicist, watching from the wings, tensed. Calmly, Denzel replied, "I wouldn't call it lecturing. When you're given a platform, you have a responsibility to be authentic about who you are. I don't preach to anyone, but I won't hide my beliefs either." It was a steady answer, but to Colbert, it wasn't enough. He pressed harder. "But what about the issues your faith community cares about? Marriage equality, women's rights, religion, and government? You've been pretty quiet there, haven't you?" The air thickened. The audience shifted in their seats. What started as promotion was turning into interrogation. And still, Denzel held steady. His jaw tightened, but his voice didn't waver. "My faith teaches me to love, not to judge. I talk about dignity, about hard work, about—" Denzel leaned back slightly, his expression calm but resolute. "Family, I'm not a politician. I'm an actor telling stories." His words carried a quiet weight. It was dignified, authentic, but it wasn't the viral moment Colbert was hunting for. And so he pushed again. The trap was closing in. What began as a film promotion was spiraling into something else entirely. Colbert wasn't looking for answers. He was looking for a confrontation. The conversation had drifted away from cinema into sharper, heavier territory. He leaned forward on his desk, his tone shifting from host to cross-examiner. "Let's get specific," he said, pausing long enough for the audience to shift uneasily. "You've been very open about your Christian faith. That's fine. But where do you stand on the issues your faith community is always vocal about? Marriage equality, women's reproductive rights, the role of religion in government. Don't you think people deserve clarity?" The words landed like an ambush. The theater, which moments before had been buzzing with laughter, fell silent. The audience sensed they had crossed into something unscripted. No more playful banter. This was a challenge. Denzel didn't flinch. His hands remained steady on the armrests, his posture upright but calm. He met Colbert's gaze, his voice measured and deliberate. "My faith teaches me to love, Stephen, not to judge. When I talk about values, I'm talking about dignity, about working hard, taking care of your family, respecting people even when you disagree. I'm not here to dictate laws. I'm not running for office. I'm here as an actor, a director, a man sharing what guides him." It was steady. It was dignified. It was authentic. But it wasn't the answer Colbert wanted. He leaned closer, pressing harder. "The silence itself is a position, isn't it? You can't claim the moral authority of faith while staying neutral on the moral issues of our time. That's having it both ways." A murmur rippled through the crowd, half gasp, half discomfort. They had come expecting charm and wit. What they were witnessing now felt like a trial. Backstage, Washington's publicist grew visibly tense, one hand hovering over her phone as if bracing for fallout. She knew what her client had walked into, and it wasn't what had been promised. Washington's jaw tightened, the first visible sign of strain beneath his composure, but his voice stayed even. "You're asking me to fit my relationship with God into your political categories. That's not what faith is. My responsibility isn't to endorse one side or the other. It's to live authentically and let the work I do, on and off screen, speak for itself." For a moment, the room hung in silence. No applause, no laughter, just the weight of his words. The contrast between the two men was now undeniable. Colbert was performing confrontation, leaning into provocation to craft a viral moment. Washington was embodying quiet integrity, anchored, grounded, refusing to be dragged into political theater. That difference was visible to everyone watching. One man striving to control the narrative, the other standing firm in his truth. Then Colbert pressed one question too far. So you're saying that staying neutral on civil rights issues is actually respecting people? Is that your position? His tone was sharp, almost gleeful, as if daring Washington to slip. And in that instant, the smile that had carried Denzel through decades of interviews, premieres, and press junkets disappeared. The Hollywood warmth was gone. In its place was steel. With a single question, Colbert had crossed a line, and the duel that followed would leave the theater in stunned silence. The air in the Ed Sullivan Theater grew heavier, every breath charged with tension. The easy rhythm of late-night television had collapsed. Colbert wasn't smiling anymore. His voice cut through the silence, sharp and insistent. Come on, Denzel. You can't have it both ways. You can't sit here and talk about faith, values, redemption, and then dodge the issues that actually matter. Isn't that avoiding moral responsibility? It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. For the first time that evening, Washington shifted in his chair, not out of discomfort, but out of resolve. His eyes locked on Colbert, calm but edged with steel. Are you interviewing me about my film, Stephen, or are you trying to score points? The line landed like a thunderclap. A nervous laugh rippled through the crowd, the kind of sound an audience makes when it's unsure if it's safe to react. Some clapped hesitantly. Others froze. The power dynamic had shifted. Colbert looked momentarily caught off guard, but he doubled down, his tone defensive. I'm trying to have an honest conversation. You've got influence, a platform. When you invoke faith, you step into the public square. Silence on issues like equality or women's rights, that's not neutrality, that's complicity. The word hung in the air like smoke. Complicity. It stung. It provoked. It reframed Washington not as a guest, but as a defendant. Denzel leaned forward, his voice low but carrying further than before. Complicity is forcing people into boxes so you can score a headline. My work speaks for itself. My values speak for themselves. I don't need to be a pawn in your political theater. Applause broke out, scattered, hesitant, but real enough to show that at least some in the crowd recognized the imbalance. Colbert's composure slipped another inch. He gestured with his cue cards, his words tumbling faster, more heated. You can't come on a national stage, talk about redemption and second chances, and not be asked what that means in real life. This isn't a puff piece, Denzel. This is accountability. Washington's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady, measured. Accountability isn't ambushing a guest under false pretenses. It isn't twisting faith into a weapon. Accountability is respect, even when you disagree. That line drew another wave of applause, louder this time. Colbert tried to speak over it, but the sound forced him to pause. The moment now belonged to Washington. And that was the danger of the tactic. Colbert had relied on what media critics call host cornering, the strategy of trapping a guest into a yes or no position, boxing them in so that any answer can be spun as weakness. It sometimes creates viral fireworks, but it comes with a risk. When the guest doesn't play along, the host can end up looking less like a truth teller and more like a bully. That risk was now on full display. Colbert's tone sharpened, but his rhythm faltered. Washington's calm never wavered. The refusal to take the bait only made the host push harder, faster, more recklessly. You can't expect to sit here, present yourself as a moral voice, and then stay silent on the biggest issues of our time, Colbert pressed, almost pleading. Washington's answer cut clean. I don't present myself as a moral voice, Stephen. I'm not running for office. I'm not writing policy. I'm an actor, a director, a man of faith. What I share is my experience, not your political script. Scattered claps broke through the silence, others still frozen, watching the confrontation unfold like a duel. The rhythm of television, setups, punchlines, applause breaks, had completely broken down. This wasn't late-night comedy anymore. It was combat. Backstage, Washington's publicist stood tense at the edge of the wings, ready to intervene if things spiraled beyond repair. In the control room, producers exchanged frantic looks. This wasn't what they had planned, but no one dared call for a cut. On stage, two men stared each other down, one grasping for control, the other anchored in calm defiance. The audience wasn't laughing anymore. They weren't clapping on cue. They were witnessing something raw, unfiltered, a duel. The tension had stretched as far as it could go. The room was tight with silence, the air heavy enough to cut. Then Colbert, frustrated and cornered by Washington's calm defiance, let slip the word that pushed everything over the edge. "You're being a coward, Denzel." Gasps rippled through the audience. A word too sharp, too loaded, too personal. It wasn't just a question anymore. It was an insult on live television. Washington's eyes narrowed, the calm mask hardening into something sharper. He leaned forward, his voice slicing through the stunned quiet. "Cowardice," he said slowly, each syllable deliberate, is hiding behind comedy when what you really want to do is attack someone. The words landed like a strike. The crowd froze, caught between awe and disbelief. They had come for late-night laughs. Instead, they were watching a heavyweight showdown where every line felt like a blow. Colbert shifted in his chair, his hands restless on his cue cards. He tried to smile, but it looked brittle, forced. He was losing control, and everyone could see it. Then Washington delivered the line that turned the room ice cold. "Do not throw pearls before swine." The biblical phrase hit like a slap across the face of the broadcast itself. Sharp, unflinching, devastating in its simplicity. The theater went silent. Even the band, usually quick to break tension with a riff, sat motionless. Colbert blinked, visibly rattled. For the first time all night, he had no comeback, no clever retort, no punchline to soften the blow. Both men stood, Colbert out of desperation, Washington out of resolve. Their bodies squared off as the cameras caught every angle of the standoff. The audience leaned forward, breathless, realizing they were witnessing something they might never see again. A late-night show imploding live, stripped of artifice. Washington didn't shout. He didn't grandstand. His voice was steady, carrying the gravity of a man who knew exactly what he wanted to say and how he wanted to leave. He turned, not to Colbert, but to the camera. "To the millions watching at home, I came here tonight to share a film I believe in. A story about redemption, forgiveness, and hope. I apologize that it turned into something else. That's not on me. That's not who I am. If you want to see the work, if you want to be inspired, the film opens this Friday. I hope you find something in it for yourself." It was direct. It was graceful. It was devastating. In a single moment, he salvaged his purpose for being there and exposed how far the host had fallen. Colbert stood frozen, caught between anger and embarrassment. His face tightened, his hands twitched as if reaching for one last line to save the moment. But nothing came. Nothing could. The audience sat in silence. Then a scattered wave of applause began, hesitant at first, then building louder and louder. Not for Colbert, for Washington. The cameras caught every second. A host stripped of control, a guest walking away with dignity intact. Washington stepped back from his chair, gave a short nod to the crowd, and walked toward the wings. The applause followed him, rising into a thunder that shook the studio. The band still didn't play. The laughter never returned. Colbert remained at his desk, cue cards trembling slightly in his hands, staring into a crowd that no longer looked amused. He had lost his grip, his guest, and his audience, all in the span of minutes. In that moment, Colbert didn't just lose a guest. He lost control of his own show, and the world was watching. The silence after Washington's exit lingered like smoke. For a moment, no one in the building knew what to do. Colbert stood frozen behind his desk, shuffling his cards in nervous bursts, eyes darting toward the wings where Washington had disappeared. The confidence, the practiced wit, the polished timing, all gone. Behind the cameras, producers waved frantically. The control room crackled with panic. Cut to commercial. Stay on him. What do we do? A show built on precision had unraveled in seconds. Colbert tried to recover, forcing a smile that came off brittle, almost desperate. Well, he muttered, voice thin. That was something. A few nervous chuckles flickered from the audience, but the tension refused to lift. Then Washington, still within earshot, turned back one last time. His words cut sharper than any punchline. "This is not journalism," he said evenly, staring directly at the host. "It's a hit job."